is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. It is such a beautiful day out. It's a crisp fall day. There's a noticeable chill in the air. I don't know if you can see my breath, but there's also frost everywhere except for in the garden where the sun is hitting. So it's cold, but we're out here and it's warm because we're in the sun. And I am just having a great day. I brought you out here today to talk about a revolutionary new way of planting potatoes that isn't anything we've come up with. It's actually something that's been done for hundreds and hundreds of years, and I just don't see it done enough, and it's something that we're going to start implementing here on the channel because of the fact that we only typically plant potatoes one time a year. But we have a crop that will overwinter and actually produce, when it comes out of dormancy, much earlier than if we planted it in the spring. And this is called winter planting potatoes. Now this has been done for centuries by the Irish, who have a very similar growing season to us here in Michigan. And we're reading through some documents of how they did it, and it's really quite simple. They just plant their potatoes slightly deeper than you would in the spring. And this basically adds an insulative barrier by the soil that keeps the potatoes fresh, because so often what was found is that the younger season potatoes that were harvested first would not make it. They would not make it through cold storage long enough to last up until the following spring when they would be planted. So what they started doing was they actually started planting potatoes in the fall, using the ground as cold storage. And then what would happen is, just like if you leave a potato in the ground, for all of you that have grown potatoes, you know what I'm talking about. You might slice a potato in half and leave a little bit, or you might just forget a teeny tiny little potato in the ground. Next year, those all grow back. And there's no coincidence that this method is super successful because of that exact reason. These potatoes here, when sitting in the ground, will stay dormant until the weather warms up. Then they'll grow eyes just like they would normally, and then they'll grow and mature. And so it's just a mindset thing that we have to take this amazing vegetable and turn it into a perennial rather than an annual, because if you do that, you can have a much more prolonged harvest. So what we're going to be doing is called winter sowing potatoes, and this is going to basically allow us to plant a small crop of potatoes that will be mature in around early June, and then we will plant in the spring a larger planting of potatoes that will then be ready to harvest in about September, early October, meaning that we're going to have potatoes much longer throughout the season. We'll have much less waste because the amount of potatoes we're going to be growing is going to be split up into half. So instead of getting 200 pounds of potatoes all in the fall, we're going to get maybe about 50 pounds of potatoes in early summer and maybe 150 pounds of potatoes in the fall, which will last us much longer into cold storage, and then some will be planted out for the following winter for the next year. So I just really love this idea, and I absolutely am so happy that I came across it and really decided to give it a shot. So come on with me here. We're going to plant up the potatoes, and that's really it. It's just super simple. Alrighty, so we've got our bed here that we're going to plant potatoes out next year in. And what we're going to do is we're going to, so we're still going to dig our trench like we would normally. Oh, the soil is so incredible. It's so dark and so rich. So instead of digging our trench like we would normally, we're going to dig it just slightly deeper. Because potatoes are a tuber, what we don't want them to do is we don't want them to freeze. If they freeze, they'll become soft. So one of the problems that was discovered early on with winter sowing potatoes, because potatoes, if they freeze, they'll turn to mush, and if they turn to mush, they will not sprout. So during really cold winters, this is what caused them to not have a harvest next year. So what we're going to do, and just came across a sweet potato there. So sweet potatoes are not in the same family as potatoes, in case you're wondering. So this crop rotation will be completely fine. A lot of people are worried about sweet potatoes and potatoes. They're in a completely different family. So not a problem there. But what we want to do is we want to bury them just a little bit deeper than we would normally, so that the potatoes have a little extra insulation. And that's really it. There's not a whole lot more to winter sowing potatoes than that. And so all we're going to do is simply, like we would normally, take our potato and place it in the ground. Here we go. And that's all you have to do. Now we're going to backfill this, and I'm going to continue planting out this bed. I've got a few more red potatoes, and we're going to give this method a shot with about 10, 12 square feet, and that's all we're going to try for this year. If it works out really, really well, like I expect it will, then we'll convert over a half a bed to winter sowing potatoes and then a half a bed to summer sowing potatoes. Now, because we added so much soil on top, these will take a little longer to poke through the soil. One of the things that we notice in the spring is that you don't quite notice the potatoes ever even being there until stuff is really up and growing. So don't be surprised if they take a little while to come up through the soil. It takes a lot of energy to push through that much soil there, but they will. And that's also why you plant slightly larger potatoes. You see, these potatoes here, these potatoes are a little bit larger than what we would normally use for seed potatoes. But because the potato is actually starch, the carbohydrate source that the plant uses for energy for the following year, you want to make sure that the potatoes are larger, because if there's not enough energy for the plant to push through that soil, it's not going to survive. It's not going to be able to push through all that soil there, and it's going to stop just short of reaching the sunlight. So just a little bit larger potato is going to help you to have a little bit better success. So there you go. There is winter sowing potatoes. Really simple, really quick to do, and just something that I think is not discussed enough with the gardening community. So share this with your friends. Really get this information out there. I would love to see more people grow more food and just have an easier time doing it. One of the biggest things that I think is so nice about this method in particular, not only do you get an earlier harvest, but you also don't have to wait for the ground to thaw in the spring. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to get out there. I see warm weather coming, and the warm weather is here, and then the soil 6-8 inches down under the beds are still frozen. And it really just frustrates me, because it's like, I'd like to get my potatoes planted, because you can plant potatoes 3 weeks, up to 3 weeks before your last frost date. But so often, at that time in Michigan, there's still permafrost. The beds are still frozen, meaning you really just can't do a whole lot. So this method is really great for that, and just helps you to get the potatoes in the ground when the beds are still thawed and workable, and it's just a great all-around method. So I love it. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. I do really appreciate that. It helps the video get sent around to more people that could use this information. And also, if you have not yet subscribed, make sure to do that. We're still doing videos as often as we can. We've still not really even gotten into the off season yet as it pertains to gardening. There's still so much to do, so much we're going to be covering, and there's also the indoor gardening season, which is coming up so soon. So make sure you subscribe. There's a lot more information and cool videos coming out your way. So as always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to get out there, grow a garden, grow big or go home, and we'll catch you all later. See ya.